Are we ready? Okay. Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Casanello.
President.
Here. Larson.
Here.
Schneider. Ramirez.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's start it off. We got the monthly financial report to start off.
Good evening, Council. I just want to start off addressing if there's any, asking if there's any questions, specific questions on the current actuals. Okay. The one thing I will comment on is that you'll see your business license tax is extremely high, considering what it would normally be. I want to make everyone aware that the reason why this is due to the fact that we do have contractors that are working on the new improvements, commercial work. They're obviously having to file renewal as they're continuing to do the work. So that kind of is an outlier on that number. We will probably see a portion of that funds come back next year, but it's not a consistent every fiscal year amount that we cannot count on. And that's all I really want to address on that specific revenue line item.
Any questions for Roberto? Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we got the applications for the Planning Commission and the Town Council vacancies. We put them up for discussion now so that we can be transparent and give citizens time next week to comment if they want before we do full appointment and swearing in. Does anybody have any questions they want to bring up about any of the applications we have in here?
Sorry, that's me. I apologize.
I know Jerome is your friend. You want to highlight anything for him, or?
Well, Jerome is my neighbor. He's on the HOA board for our community. He's very thoughtful, thorough. As you can see, he is professionally trained and knowledgeable. So I think he'd make a great asset, and it's wonderful that he wants to volunteer and, participate in town.
And I agree. I see, he does have town planner credentials, which would be an impeccable credential for a planning commission.
Yep.
Rutgers got a pretty good program, too.
Yeah, it's a bias because it's up in New York.
Yeah,
right?
well, I'm going to say. And he has an AICP, which is good.
Yeah.
So he sounds like he's been around. Got
Yeah.
some good training. I mean, he'll be able to walk right in
Yeah.
and understand the issues.
Definitely.
That's right. No planning commission 101 handbook reading.
Well, maybe still. We'll do some training, I guess, for all the newbies, right?
Yep, we do have that in the budget. Training plus, I think we do have a handbook 101 for planning commission.
Good.
I guess we also have in here,
Before we get to him, though.
yeah,
So next week is the regular meeting. We could have a vote next week, do the appointment, and he can get sworn in by the clerk?
we,
Okay, great.
yeah, I've been working with the town clerk on the schedule next week. Like I said, we're bumping up citizens' time before we do the business recognition for, the individual business for the time slot, so that we can get that in, go with an appointment, get him sworn in and let the county clerk go on her way. And Alexander can hop up here and he can contribute with any questions towards the business recognitions.
Wait a minute, let's look at this resume.
Flip on over.
I was going to say.
Yep.
I love it.
Well, that's if we do that. But now we'll move on. Any comments on the council position?
Just the term for the planning commission would be for how long?
2025.
Okay.
2 years. Oh, less than 2 years. Right, it goes to June 30th?
Correct.
So it'd be July 1st, we'd have to either reappoint or somebody else.
Yeah, it's always confusing. We need a dartboard since we do stagger those positions in time and everything, so. If that position was for 2025?
Okay. I'm looking at Mr. Band's resume.
Okay, you want to move on to that position then?
Oh, okay, I thought we did.
We good with the planning commission?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the council position. We got a full application in here with a descriptive as well as a resume, so you can see what kind of professional background he has.
So you've been, sorry, I guess he's not technically up here to ask questions to you. But I love that he's been serving on the planning commission and that he wants to take it a step up. I will say, when I was campaigning, I had the honor and privilege of chatting with him. And I just felt he was very articulate and thoughtful and wonderful and cares deeply about our community. So I'm excited to see this application come in.
Yep, my comments are, he has shown an interest by being on the planning commission, so he does have government engagement. Some credentials on here that I like are his certified information system auditor. Even though you may consider this technical, it still falls under the standard auditing of businesses and everything else. So the techniques are still the same, and those are good things for us keeping our procedures and processes in place and all our checks and balances. So that auditing background would be good for a council to pose questions on anything that we want to move forward with the procedures.
Anything, guys?
I was going to say, I'm very impressive and I think a great resource.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Well, I like exactly what you both said. Actually, what all three of you said. I think I'll echo that. I like the idea of the processing and logic, the critical thinking skills required for that. So I think that's really important up at the dais. And the fact that Alexander ran, even though it was a write-in campaign, he ran a very strong campaign. And I think he did very well with his vote getting, even in a write-in campaign. And the fact that, yeah, on the PC. I'm just hoping we have a PC liaison. Perhaps we get a twofer out of this one. Maybe. We'll have to see. That's my only comment.
Anyone else for comments? Okay. We'll move on then.
One other question, for the next election for this position. Did Martin weigh in when that will be?
It has to be this November.
Yes, we will be doing it on the on the regular election cycle this November.
Would somebody like to speak about the costs associated with that?
They were, as long as we run it during the regular election, there will be no cost to the town to include them on the ballots.
Even for ballot modification? Wow,
Nope.
that's a surprise. I'm used to seeing a hit for that.
And that date is November 7th.
So if somebody were to file for that, they would have to file by when? We should find that out.
We'll have that, we'll figure that date out, and we'll announce that at meeting next week.
Okey-doke, good.
May.
Yep, I'm assuming it's typically got to be around the primary time, right?
Correct.
So it's got to be around May
Yeah.
or before.
It
So
would be
it'll be
before.
coming up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I'd say
in
about a
the,
month.
It's in the candidates list.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So with the special elections, there's no time limit for, that we had to comply with, I assume?
Nope, the only time limit we had was 45 days to appoint somebody to the empty seat. And last time I checked with Martin, the appointment, I don't know if it was probably about a year or something, but he said that the general election time was okay. Any other questions? Okay, next is the draft proclamation. This is something we typically do every year. It kind of coincides with, I guess I'll let the town clerk describe it. Put you on the spot here, Kim. But I did want to make it viewable for you guys so that if there was any questions on these whereas lists and everything, we could at least vet that out before you get surprised to have to vote on it.
Good evening. Every year, the Dominion Women's Club puts out the pinwheels across the street at the museum for Childhood Abuse Awareness Month. And last year, we gave them a proclamation proclaiming April as Child Abuse Awareness Month. The representative or president, I believe she is, approached me again in January asking if the council would still be interested in the pinwheels, and I said, of course, and if we would also be interested in doing another proclamation. So the draft proclamation is what's before you.
Will they be here?
They will be here.
Good. Write that down.
So give you time to read it. If you have any comments or concerns.
I pulled this proclamation from a template from the website.
Yeah, it's probably similar to what we did last year.
Yeah, I think it's
Similar
probably
to
the
what we
same.
did last year.
Everyone good?
Full support.
Okay. Then that'll be a quick turnaround next week. And I guess if you could have something printed out for us to sign immediately and hand off to them before they leave, that'd be good. Okay, next on our list, we got the purchase for police vehicle discussion,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
set up for the budget, right?
Yeah, well, a little advanced, but it is a good setup for the budget. To give you a little, council, a little context here, as you may know, not just in the personal purchase of vehicles, but in the government purchase of vehicles is very delayed due to supply chain issues and a lot of other regulations that's going on. Currently, with my sources in Richmond, the current wait for ordering is 22 months turnaround on police vehicles at this time. and the ordering porthole is not even open. Then it probably won't open until the third quarter of this year. So getting vehicles is difficult. Now, there is a way around that to give you all some context. Is a lot of times municipalities and organizations will not purchase a vehicle that they've ordered outside of their current budget year. So if they ordered the vehicle last year and it comes in August of this year, it's outside of their normal budget procedures, they won't purchase it. Now, some entities, some municipalities will have workarounds for that, but for the most part, it won't happen. So that will leave a surplus of vehicles at the local dealerships that other entities can get in line to get, which I've obviously made those contacts to do that. But in speaking with finance, and not so much with you, Vice Mayor, but with Joe and Mr. Weir early on talking about vehicles, one of the things that I wanted to do in our upcoming CIP purchases next year was to have one of those vehicles be a pickup truck. And it's for several purposes. Everybody here knows what a pickup truck does and what it's capable of. What we would specifically be using it for is towing our trailers. Two of the trailers are relatively heavy and not really in the specs for an SUV that we currently have. Obviously, the utility of having that bid to haul equipment that we would need specifically for Haymarket Day and different times when we use lighting systems. Obviously, we borrowed the lighting systems from Prince William Emergency Management this last year, and we were using Lonnie's truck to haul those. Even with Santa Claus, we were actually using Aaron's truck to bring Santa in. So there's a torrent of different reasons that we would use the truck. Not to mention in inclement weather, they do come in handy for different things that you might need for that as well. So to basically boil it down to and give you the quick and dirty is one is the first decision, the two decisions that I would like you all to take in light and discuss is one, yes, do you want to purchase a truck? And of course, I know, especially with Finance Committee and Council, it's always about the numbers as well. To outfit, to do a build out and purchase an SUV. A build out is the options that you choose to bring with that SUV, such as a rear auxiliary air condition for prisoners, keyless entry, whatever the options would be on that list. A current build out to get to that point would be anywhere between $42,000 and $45,000, depending on the model SUV that we would be able to purchase. Again, without being able to order, we're going to pick up what somebody else failed to purchase when it comes to the next budget year. All right. Now with the truck is, as you can see, and I did a handout, there is a truck that just became available from another municipality who had ordered the truck, but kind of failed to loop in finance and council. My connections in Richmond has offered us this truck to hold on to. Now, they're still holding on to it, but they're going to outlet it. So that brings us to decision two, when to purchase. If you so desire for us to move forward with a truck, now would be the time. They'll hold this truck through next week at the request from me. As you can see, the build out on that is at the 45 mark. It was a 42 base. And the build out that was already chosen by the municipality that ordered this vehicle brought it up to 45. So in the build out aspect, we're in the line for things. But the truck will actually be cheaper once we do the upfit. The upfit is your markings, your light bars, radios, things like that. It's cheaper to do a build out on the truck than it is the SUV. So it will probably end up being less money all in than it will be for an SUV Interceptor. So that's kind of the context that brought us to this point. I don't want to overtalk it, but I want to make sure that you're informed of the decisions that I'm asking you to look at, and then take any questions that you would have to help have you make a better decision.
Questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Chief, this one that's already spec'd out that's coming for delivery, are there any options that you would have?
I've seen one specific option on that I would not have chosen, but it's around $300, and it was the chrome bumper. I don't really know reason for a chrome bumper. The other options are in line with what you would see on a police truck today. There's probably a couple of options they should have added that they did not, but those aren't kill points for me. But that's the only thing that I seen that they kind of decided that they wanted something that looked better than was more functional. Me, I'm a more functionality type person. Just make it functional. It ain't got to be pretty.
Well, that wasn't the question I was going to ask, but thanks for answering it that way. Are there options there that if you were to just buy a truck, that you would have added that obviously they didn't add? I guess is
In
my
looking
question.
back, there are some wiring packages that they probably should have thrown in there, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's better to do it before the fact than after you build it. Makes it a little easier to install, less wire to run later, and you can run the wire before the body and everything else is laid out on the chassis. And I can't remember, I remember when I looked this up a week ago that there was a couple of things. The blind spot backing, of course, backing is 95% of your accidents in police vehicles. Whether it's slow speed or high speed backing, that's where 95% of the fender benders are going to happen. They didn't offer that, which would be a good safety and liability issue. There was a couple other things, but nothing, like I said, that would kill it for me.
And my last question, is this one of the ones that they advertise that has like the extreme horsepower? This new police?
This is a 3.5 EcoBoost. EcoBoost does have more power, but it's a little bit, it makes it more equivalent to the gas mileage that you would have on a 3.0 liter, which would be in the EcoBoost SUV. And a matter of fact, the mileage is 18 to 24, which is the same mileage that you would get on a 3.3 direct fuel injection, and is only one less mile than you would get on the EcoBoost with the SUV, which is another 3.0.
Okay, so it's not that extreme
No,
police
sir.
package?
No, sir. No, sir.
That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Yep. I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, I know we talked about this when we were doing the liaison discussion, but can you tell me, for Monday, can we have the all-in cost for this? I mean, this is just the vehicle cost.
Yes, this is the vehicle with the build-out that they had already ordered. We just need the upfit price. I can find out that, I gave you, what was the number I gave you? 53K total was out the door, but I need to finite that number. That was a generalistic that I could help the town treasurer with making sure his budget numbers were correct. And of course, you're going to add a little too. You don't want to come in under. And that's on me. But I can finite that for you by next Monday.
All right, I think that would be good for transparency purposes. Understand it. So, we're thinking, and if you could itemize it, the vehicle cost, the upfit, and then, of course, there's an offset for one of the vehicles will be decommissioning.
Correct. And I've been watching the numbers on vehicles on public surplus and gov deals, and I've given the town treasurer, Roberto, a number that I think that we can get at, which is roughly $3,500. Like I said, cars are at a premium most of the time. Decommissioned police cars, as long as they're decommissioned properly, they can hold a little bit of value. You don't just take a putty knife and scrape off those stickers and things if it's done right. But right now, they're selling for a little bit above market. Usually $2,000 to $2,500 is what you can expect, but $3,500 is kind of pretty much in the realm.
And then the money, where are we going to get the money to do this?
That's my
I know
question.
we have the money, but
So, I'll let.
so everybody
Yeah, I
understands.
was going to say, that was my question.
Where are we deriving the money from,
Yeah.
and how does this affect the CIP?
Okay, so let's get one question first. How to purchase the funds, the funding of this purchase. We will obviously, if you guys remember, we do have proffers from Van Meter that the chief in those proffer agreements for public safety has a total of $10,640. We would fully use those funds to go towards the purchase. To offset the remaining, we would do the CIP funds. What we would be discussing and requesting for council is to go ahead and create an amendment that would actually reduce in next year's budget by the amount that he were to use to purchase this vehicle. And then the bonus on that is the potential surplus funds that would additionally offset the cost of this vehicle. Meaning that once it's outfitted, decommissioned as he explained, we will be able to sell the old vehicle, and what we would do is to offset the cost is throw it back into the CIP funds to offset that usage.
So right now, we're looking at an all-out purchase, or are we going to look at a loan or go in debt? I'm assuming you're looking at an all-out purchase?
I would suggest doing an all-out purchase, especially with the interest rates currently. Eventually, we're going to have to purchase these vehicles anyway. We're in a position to do so. So why not, make the purchase now, especially because we do have proffers that are incoming as well from the Pulte project. So that will be later down the road. I do not know if that'll be in the next fiscal year, but within the next two, I'm sure. We could look into the finance if that's something you would like to see. But we could pull we do have the funds to do the move now.
Consensus from the dais? Do you want options, or you feel comfortable with all-out purchase?
I'm comfortable with an all-out purchase, but
Him too.
And me as well. I think in the past, we looked at these things and it was like for this small amount, $50,000, it was, and if it's in the budget. I do have just one other question. So Chief, the purpose of it, I thought was for towing and stuff like that, but I noticed when it says the trailer tow package, it doesn't show that $1,300.
They did, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm still on. Sure. They did set up the braking assembly, the tow for that, and I think that we're going to be okay. I'm going to work it out with Sheehy for that tow hitch. So half of it's there, half of it's not.
Gotcha.
Again, another reason I don't understand why they did what they did.
Right.
I can't speak to that municipality's decisions on that. They got half the package, but not all of the package. But I really feel certain that I can work it out with my connection down there to make things work without any extra incurred cost.
Understood. Thank you.
So then, just to be clear, if we go forward with this on Monday, how long will it take for you to get the vehicle?
Well, I'd have to talk to Shane down there about the upfit that we would need and see where we would be at in the scheduling of that. I really could not even give you an approximation on when we would be in there, but or when it would be complete. Of course, there will be pieces and parts to order and things like that, so you have that delay as well. I can't imagine it's super long, and my only concern here, or to bring it up, was the fact that I don't know where we're going to be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or 22 months from now.
Right.
On the purchase of this vehicle. And again, with the three options that's available in the SUVs, which range from $37,000 to $42,000 roughly, give or take a few pennies, I don't know which one we're going to be able to get of that. Leah Arnold, who is one of the contacts I have down there with Sheehy Sales, feels certain that she'll be able to find us an SUV or two. Again, not speaking to which one those are. So I kind of felt like this was a gift horse being thrown at us through some connections that was made years ago down there. And if it was beneficial to the town, I felt, and it was definitely warrant your all's decision process. That's my only genuine concern here, is making sure we can get something when we need it. We're fine right now, but I can't speak to where we're going to be 6 months from now, and I can't speak to what vehicles will be available in 6 months.
Yeah.
I can just speak to this one right now and where it's at. That's it.
Yeah, and I get that. That makes a lot of sense. There's always an element of risk, right?
There is, and we're talking 3 months.
Yeah.
But a lot can change in 3 months. It could be a lot better, but I'm expecting it to be a lot worse.
Well, I like the way that you staggered the purchases on the capital program over a number of capital programs. It makes it a lot easier to finance, but also it makes more sense when you start going into the replacement cycle.
Exactly. If you keep your refresh and your phased implementation on projects to where it's not a huge incurrence on the taxpayers at one time, not to mention you don't have to go down that track every year or every year after that when you need, okay, now we need 6 vehicles or 7 vehicles. You need 1 now or 2 then. It makes it much more palatable to the taxpayer, and that's where I've always tried to keep it in my budget processes and just look down the road as far as we can and make sure that we're putting the money aside that we need to when we need to. And of course, Councilman Leak, I want to make sure this is a police vehicle, and it will be used for police work. These are just the extra added bonuses that I was trying to put out there with the towing and things like that. And of course, I know that Councilman Passanello knows we have went through some rear wheel bearings on our SUVs And a lot of that was because of a load that was just too much in those vehicles, and then the fact that we were asking them to tow a sign that's really beyond their limits, not to mention the trailer with the cone trailer. It's really, those vehicles are really not made for that. And I feel that was a pertinent part. So trying to look ahead, and a rear wheel bearing, we just replaced another one, is $560.02. So, that adds up after a while. And I think even if at the end of this truck cost us $2,000 extra than an SUV, we are going to save that in rear wheel bearings probably in 1 year. That's just my cost analysis of it. And of course, on record, and I can fully back it up in my opinion.
So is it white or black?
It is black.
Oh, it is black. Okay.
It is black. Again, I didn't get to choose the color either, which I don't mind. It's not a big deal. It's good to have a diversified fleet as well. So there's nothing about the vehicle, like I said, that would turn me off of it when I looked at the spec sheet. I did pick up on that trailer thing, and I didn't understand why they only did half of that. But Shane down there seemed to think that we could come to a solution that would be all right.
Excellent. I have no more.
No more? Yeah, I know I've talked to you not too long ago. I think we were targeting like 2 vehicles.
Yes, sir.
This kind of makes one easy. The next one, you're saying that there seems to be supply limits. Is leasing an option, or is that totally off the table as well?
Well, leasing is always an option. I'm not real fond of that program, to tell you the truth. I think it's best you invest your money in and go, instead of stringing it out like that with lease vehicles and then having problematics to where you can and can't get it fixed because it's not really your vehicle until you pay it off. And I've always tried to do my due diligence and price out whenever I think a price is too high at our local dealer. And I have found some lower prices, but sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze. We'd have to leave the vehicle an hour away at a different location, and that means we'd have to have 2 people drive it there, and the cost of $150 savings is not worth it. But I can, if the council wants options, we can look at those options. But I think the main thing is that we stay on that system refresh cycle to where we're never incurring a $250,000 cost in 1 year, or, well, with the prices now, a $500,000 cost in 1 year. Even the upfitting for vehicles, the high end of an upfitting 3 or 4 years ago was $7,000. If you spent $7,000 on an upfitting, you were getting the golden goose, and now that's the baseline. It's $7,000 to $11,000 to upfit a vehicle. So those costs incurred, it's best just to go the straight up purchase route.
Yeah, my personality type, I'm a straight up purchase person too, but I'm sure we got to look at the full picture if we can't seem to find a car and we need something immediately. So always keep that in mind.
I think you're right, Mr. Mayor. Leah Arnold, and of course I don't mind putting her name out there, she's a great salesperson. She's been in their municipality sales down there for years. She took over when Nick Chris passed away a few years ago. She feels certain that she'll be able to find us 1 or 2. But again, not vehicles we ordered, not vehicles that we picked out, none of the options. It's just going to be what's available at that point. But we'll always find a way to make it work.
Okay, I'm done. Anybody else with questions? Thank you, Chief. Okay, we'll move on to the fiscal year 2024 budget work session. Roberto, take it away.
I'm going to start us off, and then I'll hand it over to
Okay,
Roberto.
Emily, take it away.
So we're on packet page 14. So you have here the cover letter that myself and Roberto prepared to kind of present our draft budget for you guys to consider. So a couple key points that I want to bring up so that those watching or those here in the audience can understand. This budget takes into consideration the town council's goals and objectives for finalizing the town-initiated site plan engineering for 2 of our public projects, offering the professional public safety services for our residents and business owners, while also increasing our community services while ensuring our fiscal responsibility. We have recognized this past year revenue increases due in part to the strength of our restaurants and the town's meals tax, the addition of the hotel and the transient occupancy tax revenue, and the increase in the property assessments. Speaking to property assessments, the real estate assessments have seen an average residential increase of 5%, while the average commercial increase has been 8%. So with this in mind, our town treasurer is proposing a reduction in real property tax rate, which would result in a rate of 0.111 per $100 assessed value. This rate would work to equalize the tax rate for our residents and reduce the tax rate for commercial properties, again, keeping in mind the difference of the assessment increases. So again, we've worked very thoroughly. Roberto has spent many months and weeks not only juggling the acting town manager position, but also working through a draft budget for you guys to start reviewing and discussing tonight. So we'll speak further as he gets into it on what other additions that we're proposing to include some items on the police department side as well as over here in town administration. So I'll turn it over to Roberto and let him start us off.
Thank you, Emily. Well, to start off this budget discussion, when I first started working on this budget, I want to make you guys all aware that, I try to create a budget with the current real estate tax rate, 0.115. Obviously, with the happenings in the inflation rates and everything going on right now, I do pay attention to what's going on with the county. Luckily, I do have a friend there now as well that I am able to reach out to get some inside info. But the county is also proposing a reduced tax rate. I think it's only fair for us to look at that scenario. At the time that I created this budget, again, I was using the current rate of 0.115. What I did was the logic to how I got to 0.111 was similar to what we did last year. Our biggest proponent that increased our assessments this year were a lot of the commercial side, the land development especially. So what we did is similar to prior year, try to offset it by removing what it would be if we removed those assessments from the overall number. By removing that, we were able to create a rate that in theory would equalize what you as a town resident would be paying this year compared to last year. Obviously it's not 100% exact, but you will be paying anywhere from $2 to $3 to $10. So obviously, depending on your parcel, it could be a little bit more, but it is with the purpose to get you as close as possible to last year. And the flip side, the commercial side will obviously see a benefit in the sense that they will be paying less taxes to what it would be at 0.115. In doing so, the town though will be able, in this budget, you see that we'll be able to yet collect an additional $55,640 on real estate. Reducing this rate as well also allow me to present a budget that worked at 0.115. How to achieve that was that the 0.115 budget, all it really did versus this budget, it included more funds into our CIP/reserves. So my thought is to why not present this as for the town residents, taking into account that there is a lot of inflation going on in the atmosphere of potentially seeing a recession down the line. We do have commercial properties that are coming in online and businesses that we obviously in the meals tax you can see have a conservative number, but due to the fact that in the past 2 years, when we do have increases in revenues, we do opt to reinvest into the town by putting into reserves or CIP funds. Is there any questions right now? Okay, move forward. The TOT tax, you can see that I did increase it. I'll be honest with you that this is just trying to take a conservative number, as it's only been 1 year of having this business, this tax revenue in our budget. Unlike the meals tax, where we can kind of gauge how things perform. This is pretty new, but we do feel comfortable with this number there for now. Obviously, if it increases, we will address that per amendments in the quarter, as we have in the past. The business license tax. Though earlier today I had spoken how we are seeing an increase in this tax, we will have new businesses coming online, and we will see the tail end of some of these projects ending where contractors will still be submitting funds. Currently, we're seeing a 31% portion of this 163 thousand actuals. 31% of it is due to specifically Crossroads project going on. The meals tax, I'm increasing this by 100,000 due to the current trend. The way we are trending now, though, it looks like we may hit this 1.2 this current fiscal year. Yet I'm not sure how and when the next two early restaurants will do. I'm sure will. And as I addressed it to business owners at the last business roundtable, we tend to usually, if there's any additional revenues, tend to reinvest it to the town, especially with these businesses. We also are, this year, have really been promoting the business roundtable, trying to give back to the businesses that have been the forefront of some of our revenues as well. Any questions? Okay. On the rental units, I am removing one of our tenants is actually leaving. Their final month of their lease is coming up this month in April, so they will no longer be here. We do have a couple tenants currently that we are in discussions of contract renegotiations for extensions of leases. If we get those executed agreements before this budget, I will change that and update this draft budget.
Hey, Roberto,
Yes, sir.
how long do we have to carry these? Well, I remember we talked about this. If something is not utilized any longer, how long do we have to carry it for the auditors? Is it 5 years? So you have some line items with zero across the board.
We usually do it 5 years because we're seeing the progression. Yeah, so how it goes. But some of them have fallen off, and you'll see next year we won't see some certain line items in there.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So our rental property will be going down because of those folks leaving. But we have some opportunities, I gather?
We do. We actually, one of our tenants, I think, wants to expand their footprint upstairs. So we are currently, our town manager hasn't met with them. So it's on my desk to work on those numbers and get back to them this week. And just because it is a big number, I want to make you guys aware that the one tenant that did leave had nothing to do other than the fact that he was part of a franchise. When the franchise came over here to look at on-site, they actually, due to some ADA requirements, could no longer do their business here on the second floor. It was unfortunate, but we understood.
Okay.
Okay, going further down. Now, I'm going to try to be brief on some of these items because I'm sure you guys will have questions on the next one, but I'm trying to hit some of the main points. As you can see, carryover surplus, this budget actually is probably one of the first in a while that I've worked on that I'm not using any carryover necessarily on this budget. The transfer you do see there, though, is from the ARPA funds. As you are aware, in the past 2 years, we granted state funds due to the American Rescue Plan to address any economic help any businesses or residents within the community. We opted to, because of the amount, we opted to take the one-time declaration. So we do have those 1.7 million funds in accounts.
In a lockbox.
Yes. And due to the fact that the ARPA funds are meant for this specific project, infrastructure, anything that, aside from operational stuff, we are using those funds to fund the park sidewalk and obviously the town center project. Okay, so the expenditures. So the first one I'd like to talk about is line item 1211001 on the administrative side. You're seeing an increase there of
Can you say that number again?
1211001 salaries and wages. So in this line item is basically addressing our town hall administrative side. As you all know that we have been, in the past year, begun to hire personnel to assist with the load of work that we're getting now. As the community is getting bigger, there's more need from the town residents from town hall. This number actually does, though, include a COLA, a potential merit increase, and a conversion of a current part-time position into a full-time position. That position being our maintenance position.
That's a proposal, right?
That's a proposal, but it is included in here.
How much was the COLA? Do you remember?
5%, and a merit of 3%. And just a potential proposed. And to give you context for that, we are following similar to guidance to what the county is doing. County is actually proposing a 6% COLA and a 3% merit increase as well. Same thing, similar to county for FY 2025. The case will actually be we'll be presenting a 2.5 COLA and a 3% merit, similar to the county. So we could definitely discuss that a little bit more if you guys wanted to. The main thing, though, on this line item is that we are requesting to change a part-time position into a full-time, and our town manager can speak on that a little bit more when it comes to that maintenance position.
So, question. Go ahead. Just while we're still on that one topic, so you mentioned about the county. What about the other 3 towns?
Yeah, of course. So Middleburg, they are
I
actually
meant for Prince William, sorry.
Prince William. So Dumfries, I'm not sure what Dumfries is doing. I haven't. I'm mainly concerned with the county, but I can look into the Dumfries for you to compare it.
But just the towns, that's what I was just,
So townships, a lot of them, what they're doing is, for example, some are doing a line item for a merit increase of a set number, 25K to 30K, with a 3 COLA to a 5 or 4% COLA. They're all kind of in the general vicinity, number-wise. A lot of them at last year, though, did have a higher COLA increase than we did. Some of them did a 7%. We, Councilman Leak, last year we proposed a 4.75. Many of the other jurisdictions did actually a 5 to 7% increase COLA.
thanks.
But I will get you those numbers to compare from as well.
What were the other benchmarks? Who were you benchmarking against?
So our closest was Middleburg, and then I believe Warrenton. I gotta remember that number. I'll look back at those numbers, but I'll look at the local localities. I'll do Dumfries, Warrenton, and Middleburg.
Okay, so to speak to the maintenance position, what we're finding since I took over as the acting town manager back in January of 22, and I started working closely with the employee who holds the part-time maintenance position, we're finding that the list is ever growing. We are starting to have to push items to further down the list. We don't have enough time to accomplish everything because there are other priorities that are coming up. This past year and a half, we have seen buildings that are requiring maintenance. items such as the flooded basement or the ceiling falling down in one of the rooms at the park building. So these were general maintenance items that when we weren't spending time in the buildings on a weekly basis, even if it was just checking the grounds a time or two each week, the maintenance was lacking. We weren't getting in there, and so we unfortunately had to react. We do not want to fall into a reactive state when it comes to our building maintenance. We are trying very hard to work these couple months, through the winter, get ahead of things, get on top of operations, work on some of these buildings that we recognize that work was done a year ago. It's now time to complete that inspection again. So I'm working very closely with this employee to do that. However, we're just finding there's not enough hours in the day. He does not have enough hours weekly to accomplish these tasks as well as the other responsibilities. We did an assessment with what the workload was last year, especially over the summertime and then during our events. And from August until about the middle of October, the week after Haymarket Day, he is slam packed. So what happens is we get into a summer concert routine, we get into needing a little bit of coverage at the farmer's market or set up at that market. We then have some rotations of banners and flags that happen. We then have Haymarket Day preparations, not just preparations for the day of the event, but preparations for several weeks leading up to. So getting the supplies out, checking how everything is looking, was it, put up nicely, so forth and so on. So he definitely stays very busy in those months. We have little room for additional duties to assign. Then we do have a little bit of a lull coming out of our Christmas event in December, but we try to, keep very busy January through March, catching up on, what did we miss in all the other months when we didn't have enough hours. So all that to say, I've prepared a job description that I'll be passing around at our meeting on Monday night. I can go through it here, but it is truly just writing down the duties that, are currently being done by that position and just how much more. So a couple of the things that I am looking to add to the duties that would be performed: assistance with snow and ice removal from town-owned properties, to include preventative preparations for any inclement weather. So when we see it forecasted, saving a little bit of money and not paying a contractor to come out and sand or salt our sidewalks or our town parking lots. This would assist us greatly. In years past, we have actually had to rely on the police department, and we certainly don't want to tie them up in any way when they need to be out there for calls. So this is one item that we've added. Also taking back ownership of our banner program. Right now, one of the issues that we're having, and I think this was not planned, but it was a very great example. Our banners went up on Thursday. We've already had 5+ banners come down. So they didn't even make it 5 days. Right now, this is an issue with the contractor. We need to have another discussion about how they're being installed and, taking a little bit of pride in making sure they look good when they go up. But it's just not being done at a high quality. So giving this over to our maintenance worker to put these banners up, to work on making sure that they look nice, they're well kept when they're not up on the banner pole. And then also this gives us the opportunity to determine what our light poles need in terms of fixing them, working on finally coordinating a whole system of light poles, having things numbered so that when we have lights out, when we have banner arms broken, so forth and so on, we have a numbered system. We know quickly and efficiently what pole needs the work. So a lot of this position in the coming months, if it gets approved, would be sitting down together with this employee and working hard to create those plans, put them in place, and then start acting proactively instead of reactively. Working on preventative maintenance plans versus having to constantly be on the defense and get the phone call of, I'm at the park building and something's happened, or I'm at the museum and the water's been running in the toilet for quite some time. So again, I will have this job description ready to go for Monday night, further discussion. I'm happy to take questions now. If you have anything you want me to look into, any suggestions, certainly toss it our way.
Mary?
I definitely see value in having a full-time maintenance person. My question would be to best support them in that role when you discuss things like snow and ice removal or prevention, or like taking ownership of the banner system that we have. What types of training, equipment, sorts of things will that require to ensure that we're fully protecting our employee? And as far as like OSHA requirements, I'm sure, I do believe that our maintenance person has quite an amount of experience with OSHA and trainings, but I just want to make sure that that's also covered for if there's any specific expenses to that.
So what Roberto and I will do is we will make sure to contact our insurance company appropriately, ask the right questions when it comes to specific training. Since our goal is to invest in the employee and get them all the training and certifications that they would need, as well as all the equipment to safely do the job. I don't envision that this would require a huge purchasing of equipment. But if we go forward with the banners, for example, we would ensure that there's a safe piece of equipment that would allow the employee to get up, do the job safely. Everything is, under OSHA requirements, and he or she would be properly trained to utilize the equipment. So we would go through those steps on our end, but I will work with Roberto to determine any additional certifications. Just so everyone knows, if this position were to get approved and become full-time, we would put it up for applications, accept in all applications, and we would highly encourage our current employee to apply for it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
David?
Currently, where do we pay the part-time employee? Is it an hourly wage?
It's an hourly wage.
And
Do you have the-
what do we currently pay?
We currently are paying $20 an hour. $20 an hour for 25 hours a week.
25 hours a week.
That's all I had, I'm sorry.
Joe?
No, okay.
Okay, so we'll talk about it, I guess, on Monday. You're going to put it out for bid, so that means you're going to have a period of time before it's awarded, right? And the effective date is July 1st? Or
The
we will
effective
discuss.
date for this proposed budget would be July 1st. If the town council found the need and was willing to work with town staff, I would greatly appreciate the effective date being as early as, May 1. Give us time to put it out there, advertise it, accept applications. This is something that we just keep circling back to needing more time, more hours each week. There's a lot of projects that we are trying to work on, streetscape, cleaning out storage rooms, moving furniture, things around that the current staff, we just cannot do it all on our own.
So what's our budget look like now for staffing?
Roberto and I can touch on that next week, but we'll pull together some ideas. But yes, with this draft proposed budget, it would be a July 1 start date.
Right. And if we had the money that we could shake the cushions, perhaps find more money, you would like to accelerate that.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay. So we were talking about the banners before, right? And that's going to be a big program.
Yes.
Replacement, what have you. And some of it may not be the work itself. It's like, it seems like the condition on a lot of those arms and the finials are really in bad shape.
Right, so being able to dedicate, I'm going to say half a week, being able to dedicate 3 days, 2.5 days to go up and down both sides of the street and do a thorough inventory of what our current street light system has. We have a lot of street banner arms that are at an angle, or one's at an angle and one is, perpendicular to the street. So we need to go through, we need to get that inventory. We then need to work within our CIP to develop a replacement program. So again, this kind of goes back to having that inventory, having the system, having someone as a maintenance worker who knows it, who works with it every week, and not continuing to contract out some of these services. I think that will help us have a better look when you're driving up and down the street with our
I think Ken's
banners.
going to be happy when you're talking about programs and inventory and.
Right, and
Framework.
we've talked for a while. I mean, it's coming up on, this year we will make another purchase of our flags. That is just our typical cycle that we need to do. But again, last year we had some pretty bad windstorms, and it came down to the wire of calling in the employee and saying, I need you to help us out, assist us. We need to get these flags down because we're getting a forecasted, severe thunderstorm coming in. Having that flexibility would be greatly helpful.
All right, so for Monday, would it be possible to have also, and with respect to salary, we're talking, as a part-time position, it's an hourly rate. Going to full-time, it's not just the hourly rate, it's also the fringe. And so you plug that in, and we're talking a significant increase.
Do you want to talk about that now? Fringe, the benefits and all that, numbers? Or do you want to do it Monday? We'll do it Monday.
Yeah, so that would be helpful to see that, to see what those true costs are. I mean, I know you have it spec'd out in the proposed budget.
Yeah, I actually could probably have those numbers at this week's finance,
Okay, but
and then
for
present it
Monday
to
night
council
would
as well
be
too.
great.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, just one kind of general note. So we've already purchased the maintenance truck. Roberto's also worked into the proposed budget what that would mean for increasing fuel costs. So we have included those items as well when thinking through this position.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, good.
Yep. And there is a lot of quality benefits if we do, like just the banner program in general. You do get the knowledge of what condition the light poles are in, so that the replacement is a trickle cost as opposed to one big lump sum when it's just kind of, oh, yeah, that is falling, isn't it? Instead, because you're not getting this feedback from the contractors.
And one last other example I just kind of wanted to call out, it's kind of a heads up as well. Last week, we had a larger tree branch that's fallen in part of the tree that's, as you look at the park house, just off to the left side of it. So if you go up there, you'll see caution tape around it. But again, this is a benefit of having eyes on the park property. Our maintenance employees saw it, recognized the issue, took immediate action to rope it off, and has called our contractors in to get us the right quotes to get everything trimmed up, taken down, and safe. So it's these things that when town staff is sitting here and we aren't getting out every single day doing property checks, it helps to have those eyes out there, so.
Two more things, if I may. Two more.
On this side yet? Okay, go ahead.
So can we have the job description for Monday too?
Yes,
Take a look at that.
we'll include it in the agenda packet.
Excellent. And potential offsets. I know there may be some, it's not going to be a one-for-one. I don't believe that'll happen.
No.
But to better understand what some of the savings are, that would be good. And that was a good point about the equipment. I mean, right now, he's using that lift for the Christmas stuff. So, I mean, there'd be cases where we.
Well, we did have to
lease-
buy an OSHA harness for him for that, didn't we?
We have it.
We
It's
have it
ready to
now.
use.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have all this pulled together. We'll also mention how it ropes in with the plan to rent out the museum and have that incorporated in there. So if you guys think of anything else this week, give us a shout and ask away. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Roberto.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So on the department side of the administration, there's a few changes, obviously, with the FICA and the VRS due to this proposed FTE increase. You also see a reduction on the healthcare insurance. That has to do with, some people waiving and others coming on board that took on the full family plan, which we had budgeted for.
Okay. So there was still a reduction?
There was a small reduction, yes.
Yeah, okay.
In total for the department, this was showing an increase of 9.5% for the prior year. The following line item here, 12210, legal services. So as you guys can see, actually currently right now we are very low when it comes to the legal services. I attribute that to the management. Everything is run through the town manager. He does a good job on keeping it short with Martin if we need to, and also attributing the fact that some of these engineering reports and legal reports that he has to do are pass-throughs to the developers or residents. What I did there is included the maximum per the contract of a 4% increase. But this has always been a line item that I know he's no longer here, but Councilman Morris also fought.
Right.
But mind you, we do have a legal matter currently going that may be going to the new fiscal year, and as well as with these new developments, land issues that may arise that he will view, and some may be passed through, but not all. So I'm keeping that just with an increase of 4%. Obviously,
That's for escalation?
yes,
Essentially?
correct. This is taking into account that his rates will be going up. So just a number out there, but if if this is something that the council at the next meeting would like to see change or move or increase or decrease, please let me know.
Let me ask a question. When is the contract?
Yeah, that's my
Oh,
question.
is it? Oh, okay.
Feel
How many
free,
more
Joe.
years on that contract? Is this like the last year, or do we have 2 more?
I believe Mr. Kuhn dealt with some that renegotiation. I can go back and see those files if he kept a digital copy of that agreement.
Yeah.
So I would have to go back and check.
I might even have it in my bag.
Yeah.
Let me look.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too, like we did that.
because I know we did some type of negotiation last year since July 1st, we went into hourly rate when he
So-
supported our meetings.
Yes, so
That was them making a change of.
so if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So what happened with that is from the prior year to this current year, our town attorney made us aware that he will no longer have a flat fee for the joining of the meetings. So now we're paying him hourly, and Councilman League, I think this is different from back when you were on. Now what we do, that's why we have moved up our closed sessions up to the front. So if we do need him, he's here, but we don't pay him to sit here. Prior councils and prior years, it was just a flat fee for him being here. Now he actually charges hourly rates. So now that's the reason why we don't have him here waiting to the end of the night. We've moved up our closed sessions to the beginning of the meetings.
Right. No, I don't have it.
Okay. The next line item is 1224001. This is for the annual audit, the CAFR. Fortunately, right now, we're still trying to work with them. I'm hoping a May date. I'm waiting to hear back from our current auditor. But in discussing this line item, it is coming up to having 5 years with this same firm. I think it'd be wise to go out there and just do a rebid, an RFP. This is a very common practice. He may be the same person that does it, but we just, for transparency, it would be good for the town to start thinking this year to, if you guys give me the go-ahead, to start working on an RFP for a request, just to see what's out there. you know, I cannot complain about the current legal firm we're using, but, you know, it's a standard practice every 5 years. You know, you should go out there and just see what's out there, compete a bid.
Yeah, I think you're doing your due diligence.
So we'll be working on that, hopefully, if that is okay
I
with
think,
the council.
think it
yeah,
is
I
the
think we can
consensus.
give a directive right now to go ahead and put out an RFP.
Okay, we'll work on that.
No objections?
No, I was going to say,
Objection.
Okay. The next portion is actually the police department. I will let Chief have this discussion as it's his department, but I do want to make one comment on it.
Be nice.
In working this budget on the wages, there is a career development program that the chief last year opted to not pursue, but we are implementing it this year. The hope is to implement it this year. The department also has a 5% COLA with a 5% merit, which will be based off this career development program
Okay.
for the officers. But when we originally received his draft budget, our town manager noticed that our chief had not included a merit percentage for himself or the lieutenant. So that is something that the town manager asked me to include to work in the budget, a 3% merit for, on top, aside from the 5% that they will be eligible for COLA, to propose a 3% merit for the chief and the lieutenant. So I just want to make that comment to you guys, just knowing that, you know, that was something the chief did not include, but we went ahead and did that. Chief Cyber.
Thank you, Roberto. Appreciate it. I'll try to not belabor any points, but I want to reach out on the high points. Obviously, Roberto did an excellent job of explaining that we did lay off with the career development, and we're talking salaries first up, line 0001. Last year, because I felt that it wasn't a proper time to implement that program. I have, however, implemented the career development program with the officers, unfunded. The whole discussion last year with that. In talks with the town manager and treasurer on the 5% COLA, he felt that that was a pretty good dart in the board. He actually had asked me to vet some other areas, and obviously there's several different ranges, but I will say that the 5% is to the low end of what some of the others that I tested or spoke to about were doing. And then with the career development program, I was asking for a 5% increase just for the officers. That's not supervisors. That is a development program for people that's not in supervision, for officers and deputies, depending on where you work, that gives them the incentives to stay and improves the tenure of your department, and it makes sure that you're investing into your employees and that they're investing into themselves and their career. The career development program, I wrote the one in Winchester. It's very successful in retention because the officers have something to look forward to. And then, you know, it's not just if you're breathing, you get the raise. There's several different facets, and I can go over the policy for that with you. It is implemented. Everything from not having more than one avoidable accident in 3 years, your qualifications percentage, your education, your training, your work ethic, your time on or time that you take off. A lot of factors go into that, and it's not an easy step increase. You really have to be invested in your department to meet that. And then we obviously with the career development panel, which being that we're in a small department, that's just going to be me and Jake. But we reevaluate it every 6 months, not just for people who can advance, but for the people who's already in the program to make sure that they're maintaining their level of training and standards to that. And if they fall below those standards, then obviously that step gets taken away from them along with the pay increase. So there's incentive, and it's a great tool for both the department, the town, and for the employees themselves. So sincerely believe in that, and no matter what you do. And of course, I know that Roberto threw that out there, that I did not expect an increase this last year, which you all gave me, and I really appreciate that. But I did not expect anything for myself, and I still don't expect anything for myself. Let's make that clear. If you want to throw money at my department for salaries, you throw it to my guys, not to me or not to the lieutenant. You throw it to those guys. And when you look at the numbers, Of course, yeah, I go over specifics, but basically, went over these with Roberto and the town manager, and the numbers going up to that 516 mark meet all those standards, including what they seem fit to put in for Jake and me. And again, I'm not requesting that. If you do so, fine, but otherwise take care of my guys. And then one of the main concerns that I had in going over the budget, and when I saw the site plan for the development on the west side of town, Roberto said my reaction was quite something to see. But usually when you get a mixed-use area like that between commercial and residential, you do see an uptick, at least in some of the more trivial crimes such as tagging or B&Es and larcenies, vandalism sort of thing. So it has been a concern of mine, and I met with Jake several times, and also Emily, to try to decide what was the best course of action. I'm a very proactive person, and I believe that's we never fall back. We never lose a position that we hold. And right now, Haymarket is a wonderful place to live, and it's a wonderful place to raise your kids, and it's a very safe place. Jake and I refer to it as the safest half square mile in Virginia, and we want to keep it that way. And the only way you do that is by a proactive approach. But yet still, what I was looking at is more of an investigative function, somebody that was dedicated to take care of those challenges and to also crime prevention. I think that's the key. That's what keeps our fence up and keeps us that safest half square mile in Virginia. But I did not feel that there was any numbers or stats that would say that we needed an extra person, so to speak. But we do need those skill sets that is dedicated to those objects, and to make sure that we're meeting and protecting our businesses and our residences that's moving in, and the ones that's been here for a while. So the best position I could come up with was to add hours, which is salary increases, obviously, for overtime and part-time. We have a very capable part-time employee who is one of my investigators in Frederick, does an excellent job. And he is willing to donate some or throw some hours at on a part-time basis. We also have an officer that has shined as far as his investigative skills and his casework. So between the two, I think that's a good happy medium. Instead of funding a full position that we're not my language, it was Roberto's, married to for forever, is that we start the slow approach. We do the proactive things to make sure that we're protecting our community, and we're providing them the skill sets they need to keep it a safe area, but yet still not overcharging the taxpayer for something that we don't necessarily need yet. So instead of asking for another position for those skills, I'm looking for part-time money and overtime money to make sure that we're providing those assets out there, and reevaluate where you are a year from now to see if it's warranted. And at that point, it could be anything from asking for another full-time position to sitting there saying, hey, we don't really need the hours that we asked for last year, and we're going to reduce it. And I'm hoping, to tell you the truth, that that's the case. I'm hoping that that I'm wrong about this. I'm hoping that we won't see an uptick in any of those crimes. But we still need to be proactive about it, and we'll reevaluate it then. So when you look at the overtime, there was a 30% increase in that, which would be 104 hours specifically for a full-time officer to work investigative functions and crime prevention. Again, key here, crime prevention, making sure that we stop it before it ever starts. Going down the list and keeping it in the sequence, the overtime select reducing. We have obviously submitted our application. Great thanks to Roberto and Emily for championing our calls with DMV to make sure that we're back in line. We have filed that application, and I feel no reason that it won't be approved, but I can't be 100% sure. Not to mention we will have that slight delay between July and October when the grant, if we're awarded it, would take effect. So we did reduce that a little bit, but we kept it at a number to where if that grant is not approved, that we can still provide those services for select enforcement. A slight increase on the wages for holiday salaries. That coincides with the COLAs and the career development program should you decide to go forward with those. Did I miss something?
Counsel, in talking to the chief today, that is something that I'm going to have to readdress on the budget. If the proposal goes as fit, I'll have to increase the holiday pay by $3,600 total. FICA, that includes FICA, the wages, and VRS.
Ah, okay.
I'm sorry, workers' comp. My apologies.
No worries. My apologies. I was going off my copy, not his. I did speak to him about that earlier today, but I didn't know that he hadn't already repaired that yet.
That's gonna throw it off a little bit, so you have an idea where you're gonna
Yeah,
find the money.
and just for council's purpose, right now, we're talking about $3,200.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hugely impactful, but I felt that you should know the number.
Yeah, good.
So, and then going to part-time salaries again, this would allow for 428 hours. This uppage here that I have for part-time investigative and crime prevention. This also has an increase due to ECOs and TDOs, and I know that you all obviously know what those are: emergency custody orders, temporary detention orders. It's not just the amount that we've seen an uptick in, which is still a small amount here. It's the hours involved. 100 years ago, when I was on the street, and you deal with a TDO or an ECO for about 8 hours from beginning to end. That's from the time that you picked them up on the ECO, TDO was issued, and you took them to the facility that they needed. Right now, about the current wait is 48 to 50 hours, and that's just until we get the TDO. There's actually agencies in the state that's actually streeted, in other words, released the person who needs help because they've maxed out at the hospital where they're holding them for 72 hours, and the officers have sat there for 72 hours. So that there's a lot of fixes that we need in the mental health system here. So it's not just the fact that we have 100 TDOs all of a sudden. It's just the fact that the ones we do have are so time consuming. So an uptick in that mainly for the coverage as that goes. And it does look like this year on the only item that I think that I missed is going to be on the part-time. We're tracking to go about 20% over on that. There's variable factors for that, and I could get into great detail if you wanted me to, but that does account for that 20% that I missed. But I don't see no reason that we would have that 20% again next year. I would just rather be prepared for it. Of course, you'll see item 0012, which is the part-time admin. That goes up to $39,000 because last year was just a half year. This year will be a full year. As far as FICA, VRS, health insurance, life insurance, disability, as it goes on down until we get to basically legal services. Those are items that Roberto gets the figures for once he inputs all salary levels. So I don't have a say whether they go up or down, other than my request is impactful for those. Legal services, and speaking with Roberto, we saw needed for a 4% increase in that just to make sure that we're covered. Computer, internet, web, static, postage is static, telecommunications, a 15% increase, but basically some new equipment. We actually have taken on the events coordinator cell line, so I wanted to account for that in this coming year's budget, and also acquired a cell phone for our part-time officers to use when they're working so they don't have to use their personal phone. So that's just to cover that impact. Again, property insurance is something that I don't have a whole lot of say in. Meals and lodging, I'd like to stay static. This one I would like to have a little conversation about, 0038, convention and education. I'd spoken to finance to kind of see where their heads were about this. Not the vice mayor. This was earlier this year when Supervisor Ware was a part of the council in finance. I would like to include on convention and education college reimbursement. I would like that is an education, and I would like to see that the officers that we have, if they choose to continue their education and that it could be beneficial to them, I think it would be worthy. That's not been a common thing that we've seen with this line item to use. Basically, it's for police training. But I will say, as far as part of the master police officers' career development, they have to conduct 40 hours beyond their 40 hours of in-service training for law enforcement at a higher education, higher levels. So to be a master police officer and maintain it, you have to have 40 hours every 2 years to maintain that status. So that would also be beneficial, since we're requiring them to have that as part of the career development, is to actually pay for it. And if you seem fit to go forward with that, I would trust that the council would have the trust in me to make sure that the funds were appropriated, properly appropriated to those, and not one person gets $10,000 worth of credit college courses and somebody else doesn't get to go anywhere or doesn't do anything for their education. And I think that you know that I would properly manage that budget line item. Subscriptions, the main reason for that increase is moving our copier procurement over into that. That was paid for out of a different line item, and so we wanted to move that into our subscriptions. Office supplies are static. Vehicle fuels, you'll see a reduction due to the current outlook from the EIA as far as to what predictions will be. But you also see that that money was moved into the vehicle supplies and maintenance for our aging fleet that we're beginning to redress out. So, and then I guess the last big budget item to speak about would be 0045, the uniforms and supplies. You'll see a moderate, well, I don't know if it'd be moderate, a 38% increase in that, but we need to begin a system refresh on our portables. And actually, there's two officers that doesn't have portables currently. So, such as Officer Galbraith worked today, used my portable, which was perfectly fine. But we do need to start that refresh on those systems. And with the current rate and that slight increase, I can start that refresh, but still not overly impact what we need to use that line item for during the year. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of everything there. And I would entertain any questions if you had it to further explain an item that's on there.
Anybody?
Just a comment. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
This was, I think you all did a great job putting this all together. I know that's premature to say that now, but I figured while you went through this. So on 31-10056, the potential for that is to go down if we approve the vehicle. So that would be a reduction,
Correct, sir.
right?
Correct.
Okay. And
Like I
so
said,
we
we'd just be making that same purchase 3 months earlier,
Exactly.
roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, give or take a day or two.
Okay. And the furniture, that capital outlay, what was that for again? The 14,000?
Oh, the upgrade for the bulletproof glass.
That's right.
On the lobby, and then an awning system for the side door where the officers come in with their equipment. It would be nice to not get it rained on while they're trying to get the door open. Nothing elaborate, I'm not looking for some huge porch, but just something to keep the rain off them long enough to get the door open and don't soak their computers and gear that they're bringing in at the end of the shift. And of course, as one of those items is we don't leave weapons in cars, and they come in at the end of the shift. And again, you don't want weapons to get wet.
Absolutely. That's my only comments.
Anybody else? I know we're kind of levying on you movement forward for epilepsy certifications.
Yes, sir. I'm hoping to have that.
What are the stress points within these line items? Is it mainly just administrative, or are there equipment requirements that is forcing your budget to increase?
No, sir. It's all safety issues as far as equipment that I see with the portables and things like that, to make sure that they have those communications when they're out in the field. No real stress points. Everything is administrative. I'm waiting on the last piece of equipment, which I ordered 2 months ago, to make sure that we're in good lines with our epilepsy cert, which is a overnight storage locker for evidence for when Jake nor Officer Coppich is here to put the item in. It can be a proper storage device that would basically be beneficial. It's not like extravagant. It's just the fact that it's a needed item. And we're making do right now. We're still following, evidentiary procedures, but it's a little below par of where I would like to see it at. So that piece of equipment's been ordered, and we're just waiting on it to ship and get it installed. But I'm looking to have epilepsy accreditation done by the end of this year easily.
Yep. Well, I do see a stress point with that in your what you were discussing with your career advancement. I mean, I'm sure epilepsy has a lot of stuff required for that too. So the career advancement and the training, all that stuff, I would put as a stress point by the epilepsy certification.
Yes,
Want to make people
career
aware
development.
of it on the line here.
Yes, sir. Career development is covered specifically in the epilepsy accreditation standards. I think there's probably 11 different proofs in 2 different folder areas on that. And then, of course, the evidentiary, it's like, oh my gosh, it's 16 16 or 17 proofs easily. Evidence is looked at very stringently, so to speak. And that's why I think that the locker system, it's not a Cadillac by far, but it would definitely be more receptive to the Villepsy accreditation team when they walked in and seen that. So,
I just have one more comment, and I'll probably say this a couple of times, but I really.
Lord, I hope it's good.
It's actually, it is very good. I think it's, you said it best, it's good for the taxpayers, it's good for the town, and I appreciate you resourcing it the way you're resourcing it. The incremental approach on the potential for a new officer. It gives you an opportunity, it's more like a pilot program, right?
I think that's a proper way to put it, is we're testing the waters to see if I'm wrong, and I hope I am.
I hope you are too. But
And I've studied some peer-reviewed papers, but would tell me that I'm right. But I just want to be sure that we're providing the right services right now. Again, being proactive and preventative rather than responsive and wishing that we had.
so we don't want to get married to force a divorce, but.
Roberto's language, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. I think the incremental approach makes sense. And then if you have a problem and you see an uptick, that's when we'll have the conversation.
Right, and of course, we'll have statistics to back it up then.
Right.
It's not just the fact of a gut feeling or,
Right.
probability.
Excellent.
We'll know, but I'm still hoping we don't see that. I would love to be in a much better position next year and not even have to have this discussion.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Tracy
I
Lynn?
was going to say, so that just follows up on my question. So you had mentioned 425-hour increase for establishing that, correct?
428. 428 on the part-time, 104 on the full-time. Because obviously, if we do pull that trigger, which I'm praying we don't, I want to make sure that the full-time officer, like I said, is showing a lot of good work on that. That he has the chance to move into that position, and so having the part-time person that we have that's really capable can kind of train him a little bit too. So it gives him an opportunity to be there or sharpen his skills. The part-time guy has been there and done that. I think he was probably in investigations 13, 14 years, easy, maybe a little bit more than that. But to actually live in investigations and stick your toe in once in a while is two different things. It's a total different skill set. And I just want to make sure he's ready and that we have him there if we need him next year.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We good? Thank you, Chief.
One note, I want to correct myself on record, that the truck, going back to the truck, that is a 3.5 EcoBoost. They do make a 2.7, I'm sorry, I flipped the note over while I was doing the budget, but the 3.5 is less than our current 3.7 liter engines that we have in SUVs, just to make sure. And I wanted to do that on record. I did research it after you asked the question to make sure I was right. So there you go. Yes, sir.
Okay, moving along. The other, going along, the fire and rescue contributions to other government. This is more of a pass-through. We receive funds from the state, and this is what we used. If you guys remember, two fiscal years ago, I believe, when we were able to assist Prince William County's fire department and service the area by purchasing some equipment and vests for their fire department.
That was the vests and the Swift water
Correct.
rescue.
Correct. This is where we would expend that out. I know that once we collect that, we also will have funds from the proffers that we will have to discuss. And I believe our town manager has set up a meeting to preemptively start talking to the deputy for this Thursday on what they need and how we can assist them with these funds. Following the line item for Public Works, under Public Works, 411-0001. I apologize, 411-0002. These are funds that the town was given, transferred over funds that were for the historical beautification program. This was with the prior council, not this council that sits. These are just funds to address some of the benches and some of the light poles that we are hoping to address soon. This is what the funds would be used for. The ENS inspections, the next line item 4110003. These are for projects that the town itself initiates. It's if we start moving forward with the town center. These are some of the where we would pull some of the inspections, or we could modify them and actually make it as part of the project under CIP as well. But we like to keep that in case we do need to use the funds for any inspections. The big one, line item 4320001, trash removal contract. I think in the last 2 meetings we've had, I've been trying to keep you guys informed that our contract will be up as of June 30th, 2024 with the current service. I'm anticipating that we're going to have to negotiate, definitely negotiate, but not sure how high it's going to hit the budget. With a friend of mine out in the board informed me to look at the budget meeting, just so you guys are aware. I'll call him a friend. He is a friend. So the county is actually proposing to add an additional tipping fee for the waste management services. What this will do, they will start charging a $40 per ton for waste management. Obviously, these are charges that would pass through onto the contractor, which in essence will be passed on to us, the clients. We all know that the trash service has been, we are locked in a contract that was really good for the town. This was something that was done 5 years ago, but it is coming for renewal. And along with the new properties and parcels that the town is currently having to service, this current number works because if you guys remember let me take you back to last year at this time, we were anticipating that Pulte would by half of that fiscal year, we budgeted for half of that project to be up and going. Obviously with the new charges, there's 110, 820, still gives a little cushion for the events. When we have events, we do, or services, we do have those funds to use, but this would address the current parcels and the new ones at Carter Robinson. So that is this number will work for now. We could decrease it by a bit, but my advice would be not to, especially considering that we will be looking to renegotiate towards the end of this proposed budget. And I believe we'll be talking with those hopefully in November, December, start talking negotiations for that contract. We'll keep you posted on what the county's doing because obviously that will affect how these contracts are being presented to us. Yes.
No, keep going. No, wait.
No, and definitely want to keep you guys in the loop for that as well.
Yeah. I was going to suggest maybe talking to your friend
Yeah,
a little bit more and see what we can do about that tipping fee, because that's going to be expensive. It's $40 per ton.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Talk about an indirect tax, huh?
That's very,
You know,
that's going to be brutal.
yeah, one suggestion he had, I believe, is him. I may not speak to it, but just getting the towns to write to the county. Let the residents know that how this would affect them because it will affect them. The bottom, how
When did
this
they
is
propose?
This was in the last budget, the first budget
their new
session,
budget?
about a week ago, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they were proposing it.
All right, so, I mean, it might be a good idea to send a little note off to the supervisors and tell them what we think about that. If we can have a sense of what the numbers look like and what it'll do, to the taxpayers here. Because like you say, that is an indirect.
Yeah. I believe the number was anywhere from 100 to more is what you increase for a taxpayer. But I can go back to that meeting and see because it was a good presentation, and it was discussed. I can go back and look at that, but I believe it was around 100 or more of a dollar increase to the taxpayer that they would see. So
So if we're going to be going out sometime later in the next fiscal year, do an RFP, I gather, has there been thought given to working with the other communities, the other towns? I think there was some thought about that in the past, right?
So this current contract was actually approached that way. Our last town manager, Mr. Kuhn, was part of a group with Middleburg, Percival, Lovettsville, a few other towns, and at that time we realized that we were better off not to be part of that group. We had a better rate, better deal, but obviously I feel that this time around may not be the case. I think they may have a little bit more leverage than we will in this position. So that would be a good thing. And the town manager or myself could start having those discussions with them as well.
Okay.
Okay, moving forward on unless you have any further questions. Moving forward on the maintenance, the grounds keep section. You'll see an increase mainly due to the maintenance, vehicle fuel, and the maintenance, with the thought that if the proposal of turning a part-time position to a FTE, obviously these will be more utilized line items. So we're proposing to also increase these line items.
Can I just go back and ask a question about the maintenance?
Yes.
So that's another contract that may be coming due soon. When will that be coming due? The premier contract, I guess.
I thought I'll look into that. I thought it was more recent because I believe Mr. Kuhn also was handling that as well as the snow removal contract.
Okay. Good.
But I'll review that one more time just to be.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. The Economic Development Department, the section. The removal of the 20,775 is due to, because this current year, that the current budget you see here of 95,850 includes a carryover from the prior year. This is due to the agreement with the hotel for their reimbursement program. So we obviously have to track this per that contract. So we reduced it because if we were to go back, this is actually the 3/7 of what the 175,000 projected revenue is. Obviously, if that increases, this number will increase at the proper percentage, which is 3 or 3/7. The town tourism, that is the portion that the town keeps, the 2% or the 2/7 of that agreement. And this is actually one of the line items we've been using to start promoting our businesses, helping our community. Because in one part, at the business roundtable, we did have the supervisor come visit and talk. And one of the things he did mention is that, the county doesn't really have a huge program or huge want, I would say, to help small businesses, which we have many of. So this is one of the line items that we're utilizing to attract tourism, specifically for our town businesses.
Good.
The ground maintenance. We did bump up the ground maintenance. This is specifically for the park. This does not have to do with the park building. This is just for the maintenance, as you guys our town manager had spoken earlier about maintenance with trees. Trees are going down, or if we have to do any additional work. For example, if we have events, we always like to make sure that everything's cut, the grass is well maintained. So this is if we have to do any additional work aside from what's contracted. On the events section, we added one line item specifically for our police department events. Granted, the hope is that eventually, if everything goes as well and the DMV grant is green lighted, we'll be able to get some reimbursements as that is part of a program. But we do need to have baby steps, so that won't be the first program we go address. But eventually down the road, that is something we hope to do. But for now, we do want to be conscious of the events our police department they do. We want to be supportive, and this is something we want to specifically make it known that there's a line item that the chief can pull to make sure these events are executed at his standards. So this is why we have included 7,500, but with the thought that eventually it will be something be reimbursable through the DMV grant program.
Right.
But for now, we want to go ahead and just start setting him up for success. So.
Plus, it's probably a good idea to have a line item there to justify the use of the DMV grant money.
Yep. Sure do. Okay, going forward on the museum section, we have increased, town manager asked to increase the exhibits and program line item, just because we do want to get that, museum back to being used. So there are a few ideas I'm sure has that she will implement with the additional funds, aside from maintenance and painting. Going down, is there any questions actually right now, Wilbur? Okay. Further down, everything pretty much stayed the same with the boards. We have this year, we did do the educational courses. I don't know if that's going to be an every year thing. I guess depending, maybe when we have new board members, it'd probably be a smart thing to do to get everyone up to speed. I do know, just for you guys to be aware, the BZA has requested to actually have a standard meeting, 2 meetings a year, I believe.
Excellent.
Which we're supportive of, so definitely we're going to start.
Yeah, and to start off, we may need a larger training budget on them.
On the BZA.
Yeah, to start off until we stabilize that.
Yep.
Are they going to hopefully work on their bylaws, I hope? Okay.
Okay. Going down to the section on the non-departmental. Obviously, the big 250, this was the surplus tax revenue return refund that we did last year. Obviously, we're not doing that again, not on this budget at least. So we had to go ahead and remove that.
Always next year.
Yeah. But then the biggest, the debt service, 9510002. I have shared with you guys a sheet that shows you where we stand as a town with our debt.
Repeat the number again?
Yes, line item 9510002. So obviously, as the years have gone, we are decreasing our debt and we're decreasing our payments. This next year, we'll see a significant drop when it comes to our payments. As in that sheet that I have passed on, and it will be part of the agenda and presentation overall. But we will be paying off one of our debts, smaller debts, off. This is important because in the business roundtable had spoke about this, that once this debt is paid, the next program from what the priority was set was the Town Hall Center project, which we all know is going to be a big venture for the town, but it will bring a lot of great things for the site itself. But one of the main things is a turn lane from Jefferson on to Washington. So that is something we will we are looking forward to implementing and executing, but it will require for the town to go back out there for another debt and bond it.
So this payment in the next fiscal year, and then we've been talking about, there's 2 more payments after that, smaller.
Yeah, so after this year, it would be 2 more payments.
Right, it's smaller, like 45,000 each, whatever the number is.
Yeah, but it's more than 70,000 each with
70,000
with the interest. Yeah.
All right, so that would be comparable to the 1 year, but the discussion may be around whether we pay it all off or not. So we'll have to.
We can readdress it. I will reach out to our loan, the people that hold our loans. But when we did last year or 2 years ago, I just remember it with Mr. Kuhn. I think it was 2 fiscal years ago. We asked The difference about paying it off outright sooner than later was very minimal, that it didn't make sense at the time.
Right.
Obviously, I don't know if the town, what the ambition is to how quickly to start the town center project. That could be a reason why to pay it off sooner. But I can go ahead and request a payoff amount, see what it would look, get the difference.
See what the
Yep.
savings is,
Yep.
perhaps. And
For sure.
if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
right.
But
Depending on how interest rates are, right? I mean, the way they're going right now, we may be better off sitting on that money.
maybe. But you got to do the comparison just to see.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right.
Excuse me. Okay, moving on down to the park sidewalk, line item 94104. This is where we're tracking our current work for the park sidewalk in front of the park. These are being funded, if you were to go back, but these are being funded using ARPA funds. These are the funds, if you go up to the very beginning, one of the last items in the revenue side, line item 4002. So we are carrying over 200,000 from the ARPA funds to fund a big portion of the park sidewalk, as well as the town center master plan project. Obviously, the park sidewalk, it is going to be more than 150,000. This is just more to continue the work. And if that doesn't suffice in this next fiscal year, which I'm hoping we'll need to ask for amendment for the more work to continue to complete, we will request that amendment, and we will be using ARPA funds to fund this. Then the town center master plan, I went ahead, we should have completion by the end of this fiscal year for final site plans for this project here. I put this number 50 because there will be some work that needs to be done when it comes to RFP requests and any public settings or meetings that we would need to hold. I want to have some funds there, obviously, to get that project going. Going forward down to line item 9410701.
All right, building official.
The building official. This should have been under blight mitigation.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, don't know how that got transferred, but that should be blight mitigation. I'll make that change over from the sheet. Again, these funds have always been held, and this is to address any of the rundown buildings, maintenance. It's always been in conversation. As you can see, the past 5 years, it's been budgeted, but it's never been used. Maybe this is something that I don't know if council as a whole wants to readdress, discuss the need. I know Councilman Schneider definitely is very big on holding on to it, the money to budget it to use. So it's something that you guys should definitely discuss if it's something we need to carry, because it is a big chunk to carry on and not use or execute. Okay.
Be a discussion with the town manager, see if there are any hot spots that we need to fire a trigger on. Because I think there might be one that could use all this money up front.
So the final line item here, 94108, capital improvement funds expense. We see a reduction due to the need to move 123,000 over to CIP to fund for the police department. The additional reductions is obviously due with the increase in some of the other line items throughout the expenditures. But yet we're still maintaining a balance of 149,570, well, a budget to next fiscal year to use for any CIP items. We can obviously increase these funds if there was a need from pulling from reserves or carry over from this current fiscal year. But that is something I will let you guys discuss because I feel that with the ARPA funds, we are addressing two of the major projects that the town has been working on. So I felt there was no need to do a carryover in this current budget. Obviously, if you guys see fit to move money over, please let me know, and we'll address those changes. Overall, in the conclusion for this first presentation, this budget presented actually is less than this current budget by 3.3%. What I like to reiterate is that this is being done with a reduced tax rate to the residents, yet still accomplishing all the goals I had set when I first started looking into this budget of operationally, moving forward and enhancing the operational aspects of the town's budget. With that being said, though, if there's any specific questions, I am here for them.
I don't at this time. Anyone?
Well, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Okay, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I should
think you
let
got
you go
probably-
first. Maybe I
Well,
should.
I think, this is a lot to try and absorb. I don't know if, what kind of prep work people have done, but it'd be great for them to review this over the week. And at the next meeting, we could really start to dive deep into the numbers, if anybody has any questions. Joe, what is your recommendation?
No, I was going to say it would be smart to walk away from this and cogitate a little bit about it. There's that word again, cogitate. But, Roberto's available, Chief's available to meet and sit down and talk about it if you have any questions. I notice on the schedule, we have a second draft budget at Monday's meeting and then a possible budget work session tentatively for the 10th. So that gives us some time to kind of think about it and sit down with them and ask any questions or make any suggestions and bring it to the council. We have our schedule here. This is a good schedule, by the way. Maybe we can include that in
Yes.
with going forward.
And obviously, as Councilman Pastano has stated, my door is always open to sit down, have a discussion one-on-one if you guys want on any of the line items, or talk more in depth on them, or any concerns. I'm more than happy to do so. Sit down with anyone.
Okay. That kind of takes care of all the agenda items. Next item on the list. Jump, who's jumping?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? say
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Close the meeting up.